thing I'm noticing is the gear shifts are exceptionally quick. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're gonna be going over a 2020 C8 Corvette. Yes, this day has finally come, but first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller Chevy here in Murray for providing us with the C8 Corvette. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's just get straight into the video. Under the hood, or rather under the trunk of the C8 Corvette, we have a naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 that goes through a dual clutch automatic transmission. Power outputs are 495 horsepower and then 470 pound-feet of torque, because this one is a Z51 package. And then fuel economy is 15 around town and then 27 on the highway. So we will be to the back end of the car shortly, but here's a quick look at the front end on the C8, and I've got the lights on so you guys can see what the lights look like. In person, this car is so wide and so low, it's just really, really aggressive. I love the headlights. I know some people have said they're not really in love with them, but again, in person, it basically looks like a Corvette mixed with a McLaren almost for the headlight, or actually more like designed from like Lamborghini, but then like shaped McLaren. It's weird. It's like a bunch of different cars mixed together. You've got the Corvette emblem right there, and then the front splitter, and just like how low this car sits and everything, again, really aggressive. I just absolutely love the overall front end of the car. Don't worry, I did not forget about the frunk here in the C8. So yes, it does have a frunk, and the window sticker is actually up here. Don't worry, we'll go over that a little bit later in today's video. But in terms of like practicality for this type of car, I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable. Now coming around the side here, we've got 245mm tires on 19-inch wheels for the front, and then in the rear it's 305s on 20-inch wheels, so fully staggered setup. I love the red brake calipers on it as well, just the overall design of the wheels, and these are PS4s for the tires if you were wondering. Now here's kind of like your full side profile, and definitely has that supercar mid-engine look. And then I love this little accenting right here, just like looks so good with the darker accenting, and then obviously that's to feed air into the engine of the car. And then look at the mirror too, they have just that really nice like black metallic paint on it. But let's actually head to the back. Here from the rear, it looks absolutely fantastic, and if you get the C8, get the high spoiler. Like, big wang gang is what we're all about in general, but that just looks so much better compared to the lower profile spoiler. Even the one that comes with the Z51, it just doesn't look good with the car compared to this. But coming to the taillights, I love the design here on the taillights of the C8 as well. Just looks really good. The exhaust tips actually look pretty cool. I wish they were all blacked out, but I mean, that's pretty easy to do. You can just powder coat them. And then you got the whole diffuser here, which is all blacked out, which again, pretty neat. And then just the venting back here, like everything on this car just looks so good. And again, the mid-engine design in video and in pictures doesn't look good, but when you see this in person, again, it just looks so much better. So I know we already came back here, but we've got to talk about the storage. So everyone knows that this is where you're going to store the T-top here for the Corvette. It goes in this whole area here, and you got little clippings for it. But in terms of like a trunk, again, I think it's pretty reasonable when you take into account the front space and then the trunk space. It's all pretty good. And again, admire the engine again. And I just realized carbon fiber accenting in the engine bay looks really good. And the one thing I do want to mention is like every single thing in this car, you have to shut with both hands. When I'm filming, I'm obviously trying to do the effects where like I shut it with one hand. It doesn't really work. Like you have to like put pressure with both hands on like everything. The front, the door, no, not so much, but then the trunk as well, kind of, you have to like, it's just weird. Let's take a look at the interior here. So we've got this really nice black leather with the red stitching all throughout. Just looks very premium, and you've got the red leather as well, but just overall like really good looking. And then you can see you've got the memory seat controls, you got all of your window mirror controls, normal stuff. This is the button to open up the door, and then you got door lock right there. And then you can see you've got the button for the front, then the button for the trunk. But again, like everything is covered in soft touch leather, even down to like the bottom part. They still do like the stitching and everything, so just it looks so nice. Now taking a look at these seats here, I love the accented red seat belt, but these seats are very comfortable to sit in actually, and I love the appearance of them. You can just see just how soft that is. And then you've got the adjustments for the seats right there, and then they did a really good job with the aesthetic on the pedals. And you can see you got little parking brake control right there, and then look at the pedals in the back of the steering wheel. That all looks cool. But there's one more look before we actually pop in. Now here's a look at the steering wheel in the C8. Obviously it's got the square steering wheel and it actually feels pretty cool to touch. I know a lot of people have complained about it. No complaints here from Ben Hardy. I love little racing stripe, just like what my Raptor has, and then the red stitching on the inside. The paddles, they actually look really cool and they actually feel pretty good, just the actuation on them. And then you can see you've got the regular controls for the heated steering wheel, for the center screen, your volume controls for the radio, cruise control, all that kind of stuff. So it's got all the normal like modern controls, but it looks really cool and honestly, it feels cool. So here in the center gauge cluster, there's quite a bit going on with the car. There's a few different menus that you can kind of scroll through. Just give you different bits of information on the car over there on the side. Pretty straightforward. The thing that I want to focus on the most is the drive modes. So these will pop up here in the center screen. So you can see it pops up with my mode right there, and you can go into the weather mode, and then you can actually scroll over to the other side and you can go into the touring. You've got the sport, and then you've got the track mode, and it's just cool going through all of the different drive modes with that. And in these drive modes, you can customize it so you can make it so it changes the gauge cluster or doesn't change the gauge cluster. So it's pretty neat that they give you all those different customizations with the C8. Now here's the infotainment system, and sorry, I've done everything I can to make it so this doesn't have my reflection in it, but like there's literally nothing I can do. The screen just has my reflection, partially because it's black, but also the time of day. But you guys can see it's Chevy's regular infotainment system, nothing too crazy here, but it's cool that you do have the whole camera setup. Tons of camera views. Like, this car is not difficult to drive at all, and it's actually got really good visibility, but like you have so many different views with the camera that you can see every aspect of the car. So parking this car is going to be no problem at all, just from a size perspective, but then also from the camera perspective. And other than that, you guys know I love this infotainment system. Response time on it's really good, and that's all. Now I've got this whole section with the little gear selector, and then this is what you do to change the drive mode. So the gear selector is pretty easy. You pull up for reverse, you push in for neutral, you pull up for drive, and then you push in for the manual mode, and then again for park. And like I said, the drive mode select. And then we've got the stability control. We'll go over this in just a moment. And then this is cool. This is a shortcut to the front camera. Again, if you have any difficulties, then you just press that. But like seriously, seeing over the hood, it's not difficult whatsoever with this car. Kind of like a full view on everything, and then it's really cool how they've done this. It's like a tunnel type format with everything. And then coming over here, I love the stitching on the dash here, and then soft touch. And then the glove box, pretty simple, just press that and that'll open it. It's almost like the passengers in their own little part of the cabin. And then yes, apparently this is like the best sound system by Bose ever in the car, so you get mad beats. But over here, you can see you've got the little wireless phone charger in this area, and it says Stingray there on the back, which is pretty cool. I like that it's like this with the phone charger, because then your phone's going to stay in place, not go all over the place. Up top in the C8, we've got universal garage door openers. Now, it does have a T-top, pretty easy to use. You just have all these latches that you unlatch with the C8. Again, super simple. One person can do it, and then you guys can store it in the back. You guys saw that in my C8 review where you can actually store it. But yeah, pretty cool that you can take the top off so you can have a convertible. So I have the car raised because of the front end lift, and it literally raises too fast for me to press the button on the inside, then get to the outside. And so I'm going to try to like set my camera on the ground so you guys can see, but it is so quick. Like, it just happens in a matter of seconds, which is obviously really nice when you are trying to get over something. As you can see, we've got the window sticker here. So again, we've got 2020 Corvette Stingray. Feel free to freeze the frame on any part of this window sticker if you guys want to go over every single thing that this car comes with. Most important is the options, and then you can see that base MSRP of $58,900. So this one is a 2LT, and you can see all the equipment that that has, and then everything else that this has added on, including the Z51 package, all that kind of stuff. But you can see the total MSRP here, $83,855. Let's take this C8 Corvette out and see how it drives, but obviously with the frunk down. Now let's quickly talk about visibility here in the C8 before we set off. So you can see visibility over the hood, really solid. I mean, it just goes right down. And again, mid-engine cars always have good visibility through the front end, well, typically. There's visibility through both the mirrors, and it does come with blind spot monitoring. And then here's throughout the rear, which it's way better than I expected. I expected everything in the back to get in the way, but it is not bad by any means. There's obviously that huge blind spot there to the side, but try to find a mid-engine car that doesn't have that, just saying. And that all being said, as nervous as I am, let's set off. We are initially setting off here in the C8 Corvette. And first off, let's kind of talk about the luxury car aspect of this, because this actually really is a luxury car now. Just from the interior materials you saw earlier in the walk-around portion, very nice interior. But from a ride quality perspective, it's exceptionally smooth on the road, and you really don't hear a whole lot. We're in a pretty high traffic area, and you don't hear a whole lot happening around you. And in this normal mode, it's really quiet from the engine. The acceleration still, like, it's got a ton of torque coming off the line, so you don't really have to get into the pedal all that much, but just very smooth, very quiet, very effortless. And if you wanted to drive this every single day, you could, no problem, and it would just do very well as a luxury vehicle. And then, as you guys saw from the exhaust clip, I just put it over into the sport mode, and the difference that you notice with the sport mode versus the normal mode is the exhaust does open up a little bit, and so you definitely hear a little bit more engine noise. And if you have it in the automatic mode, it's going to hold it in a little bit of a lower gear, just so that you can get better throttle response when you do press the accelerator. But if you do in the manual shift mode, then you can have it in whatever gear you want, so then you can kind of get a little bit better fuel economy, even though that's not the whole point of this car, but you could still downshift and get some good accelerations as well. First thing I'm noticing is the gear shifts are exceptionally quick. So you guys know that I have 2021 Supra, and that 8-speed automatic does a really good job with the gear shifts, especially for an automatic. This is on a whole nother level. Like, you basically, the second you press the paddle, it shifts the gear. It's like the thought is connected to the gear shift. It's absolutely incredible. So from a shifting perspective, really solid, and from the acceleration perspective, I can definitely feel it has a ton of power, and it's just effortless speed. Like, the car's so smooth, and so you can just continually go up to a higher and higher speed, no problem at all. It has a ton of stability, and that'll actually get us into summing things up with the C8 Corvette. So right now, in terms of other cars on the market, I'd have to say for under $100,000, this is got to be the best car so far. And you guys know that I've reviewed like the LC500 and recently the Jaguar F-Type SVR. And not only does this have a better 0 to 60 than both of those cars, it sounds just as good. I feel like it does a better job as a luxury car as well, and it's significantly less money. And so this C8 Corvette's in really good territory, definitely stacks up against cars that are in a much higher price range, and anything that is close to the price range of the C8 Corvette, they just don't even compete. And there we have it, everyone, the 2020 C8 Corvette. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Chevy here in Murray for providing me with the C8, and a double shout out to the owner of the store, because this is actually his personal vehicle. So thank you for letting me, a 23-year-old hooligan, have some time with your car. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video.